Okay, can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
Make the motion.
Second. Roll call?
Perez?
Yes.
Siegel?
Yes.
Valari?
Yes.
Miliani?
Yes.
Toyota?
Yes. Can I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2012-89, which is a resolution authorizing the settlement of a tax appeal by Robert C. Spellman Jr. regarding Block 23.06, Lot 15, tax years 2011, 2012, and 2013.
Make the motion.
Second.
Executive session.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Right
okay.
there on the,
All right.
right there on the top.
Any comment? Roll call.
Perez? Siegel?
Yes.
Valari?
Yes.
Miliani?
Yes.
Toyota?
Yes. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay. And now we are up to item number 10 on the agenda, which is, did you want to discuss this first, or do you want me just to go through this? Okay. This would be on the, Kim, I need clarification because on the actual
I know,
resolution.
just go by your agenda.
Okay, so it'll
I
be,
just need to- yeah.
it'll be 85 then, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this would be a resolution asking for a motion to adopt Resolution 2012-85, which is a resolution for corrective action plan for the 2011 audit report of the Township of Greenwich County, Warren County, New Jersey. Wait a minute. Okay, I see it.
So is this one 85 or?
Yes,
the
it's
one that-
it's 85. It's unnumbered in our book.
Okay.
It's 85 on the agenda, and I just wrote 85 in there. And just so that people understand what we're voting on, this is a resolution that, in detail, describes 19 action items that the CFO has been asked to undertake as a result of the audit report of year 2011. So based upon that report and the recommendations of the auditor, he has asked that there be at least these 19 action items be implemented. And this is our CFO's checklist of things to do, which some of them have already been done, right? So we're on our way.
There is a mistake here.
What?
Under the resolution cancellation of escrow developers balances, that's listed as
Don't
86.
look-
Yeah, we
Don't
didn't,
look at
actually,
that, just go by
we didn't
the
get to that one
agenda.
yet, but you're right, I'll
You're
have
just
to change that number.
You're just
Yes.
numbered wrong in your
Yeah.
book.
So,
the actual
but,
agenda is
but
right.
this one would be resolution 2012-85, so can I have a motion to adopt that?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that if that hasn't been seconded. Is there any comment? Roll call, please.
Perez?
Yes.
Siegel?
Yes.
Miliani?
Yes.
Valari?
Yes.
Toyota?
Yes. Okay, now this would be resolution 2012-88, which is a cancellation of escrow developers balances. And this resolution would allow the return of funds in the amount of 430, no, is it 436,000?
The two columns together, $456,889.20.
Okay. Back to the township. I'll second that. Any comment? Roll call.
Perez?
Yes.
Siegel?
I'm going to abstain.
Miliani?
Yes.
Valari?
Yes.
Toyota?
Yes. Okay, now, we have a second reading for ordinance 2012-19, an ordinance of the Township of Greenwich.
We have to-
Mayor, I recommend that both you and Committeewoman Siegel would abstain
I,
and recuse yourself.
yes,
on
I
this ordinance.
actually hadn't even gotten that far to see which one it was, but yes, I will recuse myself from this Or Elaine, you want to take over right here?
I don't know that I think I'm recused from this as well. Am I?
No, you're
No.
fine.
I'm fine?
You're
Okay.
fine.
All right, so,
I will recuse myself.
And, yeah, just wait till we think.
amending the indemnification. Is that?
Very first one under.
First one, right?
under
God, it's been so long.
ordinance.
Don't take the ring
Probably the back.
2012-19, an ordinance, the Township of Greenwich, Warren, the State of New Jersey, amending defense and indemnification ordinance. I need it open to public comment.
Public comment, yes.
Public comment.
You need to have a motion, a second, and a vote.
Okay, good. Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I've never dealt with the criminal.
So, anybody wishing to speak on ordinance 2012-19, which is an indemnification ordinance amendment, is free to come to the podium and state your name and address. And oh,
Doris Rena, 520 North Main Street in Sturdsville. I just would like an explanation of what this is.
oh, very good. This ordinance amends the township's existing indemnification ordinance so that if litigation is brought against the Township of Greenwich's elected officials, the employees, officers, it amends the ordinance from the way that it was presently written, which requires a reimbursement of the municipal employee, reimbursement of the township to the employee. The employee's paying out of pocket. This amendment reverses that, whereby first it looks for insurance, and if insurance is available, that picks up on day one. If insurance is not available, then the taxpayer, the public funds are used to defend and indemnify the township's officials. Unless, at the end of the day, if they're found guilty of a crime, willful misconduct, or acted with actual fraud, then in that event the town does not indemnify, and the township employee has to reimburse the township for any defense costs that were incurred. It also changes the definition of municipal official, or clarifies that it includes the elected officials as well as, I'll just read it. Municipal official shall mean each person presently or formerly holding any township office, position, or employment, elective or appointed full-time or part-time, whether or not compensated by fixed salary or hourly rate, and including but not limited to present or former members of the township committee, boards, commissions, or agencies of the township committee. So it includes everybody.
So in other words, as long as it just doesn't come out of pocket immediately, and if the person is found, whoever the charges are brought against, guilty, they will then have to reimburse the township. Right?
Guilty of a crime.
Crime.
Right, correct. Or in a civil matter, if they are found liable to have acted with actual fraud, actual malice, or willful misconduct.
Right.
What about the volunteers working for the township?
I think they're covered too because they're not compensated. It includes
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
for
wanted to-
compensation. That's correct. It also includes your police department and so on.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, any motion to close public comment?
Make a motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I need a roll call to adopt
Motion to adopt.
2012-19, an ordinance in the Township of Greenwich, Warren County, State of New Jersey, amending the defense and indemnification ordinance 2003-7.
Make a motion. Second.
Discussion?
Perez?
Yes.
Laurie?
Yes.
Milioti?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm going to bring back the mayor and then we'll vote on the bill that was pulled from the bill list for Committeewoman Siegel.
Where you going? Hang out for a while.
These are going to be new residents.
Merry Christmas. Okay, now can I have a motion to pay the bill in the amount of $460 even?
I'll make a motion.
Comment, roll call.
Perez,
Yes.
Laurie,
Yes.
Miliani.
Yes.
Oriolo.
Yes. Okay. And now, this is a second reading of ordinance 2012-17, which is an ordinance mandating connection to the public water supply system and sealing of existing wells. Can I have a motion to open up for public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Perez,
Yes.
Siegel,
Yes.
Laurie.
Yes.
Miliani.
Yes.
Oriolo.
Yes. Anyone wishing to be heard on our ordinance 2012-17, please come up. Seeing no hands, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Make the motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Perez,
Yes.
Siegel,
Yes.
Yes.
Laurie. Miliani.
Yes.
Oriolo.
Yes. Now, at this time,
Motion to adopt.
a motion, thank you, a motion to adopt ordinance 2012-17.
Make the motion.
Second.
A comment, roll call.
Perez,
Yes.
Siegel.
Yes.
Laurie.
Yes.
Miliani.
Yes.
Oriolo.
Yes. Now, I would like to ask Tom Bolger to come up and address the Township Committee. He had sent an email, I think, circulating to the Township Committee and had asked to be heard tonight, so I placed him on the agenda.
This is Tom Bolger. I'm trying to hold together the planning board. Some of you on the Township Committee may have not ever received my emails before regarding recommendations for filling the planning board seats. Please know that in the past I have sent emails making the recommendations. In fact, the current and previous mayors like Joe, Tanya, and Elaine can attest that previously we actually had conversations about who would be good candidates to fill the planning board openings. Typically, it starts off with an email. Here's who I would like for you to extend their terms, or I might have other candidates. And I always end the email with, if you have any questions or you'd like to discuss, please give me a call. We can go through and talk about the candidates. I also offered, if you have other candidates, if you'd like to speak with me, same thing. Give me a call and we talk about who gets appointed or reappointed to the planning board. There are several terms which are expiring at the end of 2012, which need to be filled. I would ask that you consider my recommendations based on my 10 years with the planning board, the last 7 as the chair. These are critical times for Greenwich Township because the state of New Jersey is starting to finalize several initiatives, namely COA and Highlands compliance, as well as local issues like sewer capacity and even lawsuits. It's imperative that Greenwich Township have the best, most experienced members available to continue the great work that the planning board has performed on behalf of the town. As such, I would recommend Elaine Miliani be appointed to Planning Board Class 4 position expiring 12/31/2016. I would also recommend that Frank Marchetta be reappointed to his Planning Board Class 4 position, term expiring 12/31/2016, and that Mike Black be reappointed to the Board of Adjustment so that he can be reappointed to the Planning Board Class 2 position, term expiring 12/31/2013. That's a one-year term. If Joe Torriello is still mayor in 2013, I would ask, or I would expect that he would resume his Class 1 mayoral position on the planning board, term expiring 2013. If Joe is not mayor, I would highly recommend that he be appointed to the Planning Board Class 3 committee person position, term expiring 2013. Additionally, I would recommend that the Township Committee authorize the existing Greenwich Housing Task Force and Greenwich Township Sewer Subcommittees so that we can continue to meet and engage the Greenwich Township land use professionals, John Drill, Carl Hintz, Mike Finelli, and Steve Balzano. I'm available to discuss any committee member you need more information on, or if you're considering other appointees. My cell is 908-432-2123, and my home number is 908-387-1688. So, Joe, we've talked about this before, Elaine, Tanya, we've all had these conversations about how we fill these positions and what we need to do to make sure that the planning board continues doing its great work. The planning board is very different from the Board of Adjustment. There are, the planning board is more than just zoning changes. We're the organization who makes those zoning rulings. We are the ones who make the recommendations to the township committee so that the township committee can put the ordinances into place. We're the ones who put together the master plan. We're the ones who work with the professionals. You don't get this experience overnight. Typically, on our planning board, somebody will come in as an alternate, and they'll spend some time being an alternate, gaining experience just by being at the meetings. I'm looking to continue that good work. People like Frank and Joe and Elaine have that experience. Mike Black has been on both boards now for a couple of years. I'd like to keep that going. I think that the board has made some really good decisions to protect our town and has kept our town out of harm's way, in a sense that we too are looking to retain the rural character of Greenwich. We've gone through with the professionals, we've seen the plans, we know what resources we have in place. I'd like to continue that. So I would like the opportunity to talk to who's ever going to be making the appointments next year to discuss what board members you'd like to put in. Use me for my knowledge. Like I said, I've been on planning board 10 years now. I remember Lloyd Foss. Yeah, when he retired from the board, I was appointed as an alternate, and that's 10 years ago, going on 11. It'll be 11 years come May that he's gone and I'm in. I took over being chair 7 years ago now when Doris Reyna stepped down. There's a lot of education that happens at those meetings and outside of those meetings. Dealing with the professionals. Most of the time, when we don't have meetings, that doesn't mean that we're not working. That means that things are happening with our professionals, like the lawsuits, like me talking with John Drill, making sure that we're up to snuff, like we're in touch with Carl Hintz and the subcommittee to make sure that we're meeting all of the requirements that we have to for the state of New Jersey to be in compliance. It's when we get out of compliance, like happened before I was on the board, then not so good things happen. We get sued, we lose lawsuits, we get builders' remedies, and we have been pretty successful in keeping the township protected from those builders' remedy lawsuits. With the COA rules now being put back into effect, we need to put our best people forward to make sure that that happens. Now, I understand that some people may have some political agendas and they don't like this, they don't like that. That does not take away from the knowledge that these people have, specifically in land use, in planning boards, and the contacts they have to enable us to get information so that we can make knowledgeable decisions for our town. That's what I have. Any questions?
Thank you, Tom. No, I have a comment. First, I want to thank you for your more than a decade of volunteering to Greenwich Township. I have had the pleasure of seeing your work firsthand, and you have provided excellent leadership and have done just a tremendous job on behalf of Greenwich. And I personally want to thank you for that. And I can tell you, as a resident of Greenwich Township, prior to my entry into the public life, I was before the Board of Adjustment as a resident objector, as some of you know. And really at that time, I knew not many people in this town. I knew none of the professionals. I knew you because you would coach Zoe in soccer, but I didn't know you in the professional context. And when I was sitting in the cheap seats and trying to fight like hell to save Greenwich Township's character against a certain application, and I made my Oprah request and started to peruse through this thing called a master plan, and saw the level of detail that had been put and the thought that had gone into the Greenwich Township master plan, and then to take it into a conference room with 5 senior partners of my law firm that have over 150 years of combined experience representing municipalities, looking at the master plan, and to a person say to me, "This is the most comprehensive and detailed master plan I have ever seen in my professional career. And you have some good people working on it." And then being able to hold up that master plan and do that thing that I do as a trial attorney, and to be able to make an argument against this application, which I believe to my core would have had a pernicious effect on the town, it was because of the work of the planning board that allowed an affected residents to be able to advocate against inappropriate development and inappropriate land use. And what you did in the planning board allowed the Board of Adjustment to be able to do its job, because it had the guideposts and the statements in terms of how to make its decision. And you can really see in that application really the symbiotic relationship between these two independent boards, independent from each other and independent from this body. And I just really want to thank you for the work, and really all the professionals. I think it's okay I could say this, Michael knows, again, not knowing, Michael Finelli is a neighbor of mine. I didn't know Michael, and really didn't know him other than seeing him up here at the dais, and I didn't have a conversation with him during this 9 or 10 months before the Board of Adjustment, because I didn't think it was appropriate to speak with anybody. But when the case was over, I called him and left him a voice message, and I meant what I said, and I want to say it publicly. I thanked him as well for his service, because the detailed reporting that was done in terms of identifying potential risks and exposures to the township, I said to Michael, it was a comforting thought to know that had I never attended the meeting, I could have gone home and put my head on a pillow and know that my interests were being advocated and looked out for, even if I hadn't been part of the process. And Greenwich Township is special in that regard, and really, we owe a debt of gratitude to a lot of folks that behind the scenes are working diligently that the average person doesn't get a chance to see.
Mike has been here for a long time. That's not the case with our other professionals. Our other professionals have only been here about 4 or 5 years now.
2008.
But do you know who brought them in? Elaine Emiliani. Do you know how she brought them in? She brought them in because she had knowledge throughout the state of people saying, hey, you really need to go look at this guy. You really need to talk to this guy. And I remember driving to Clinton. We went to Clinton Township at the planning board meeting. Elaine and I were sitting side by side in the audience. John Drill's up at the dais looking at us, trying to figure out who we are, right?
We came in our leather coats.
Yeah.
John Drill, imagine at the dais going, who are these people?
And we came up to see John in action to see whether he was all that we thought he would be. If you attended any of the LOPAT sessions on the asphalt, you would know what John Drill is. He is a treasure. Stuart Koenig, rest in peace, was a treasure. That came all through Elaine and her knowledge and her contacts saying, You need to take a look at these guys. You're gonna be running into a lot of stuff. You need great professionals, not just good, you need great professionals. And then we went after and highly recruited Carl Hintz. We went after him about 10 years ago. He wasn't available, but then we went after him again, right? And we got him. And so, thank you. Yes, the document, the master plan is great. The professionals did that. But it was our planning board that reviewed all the material, made sure that it was accurate, and hired the right professionals to move us through. So, if you want to talk about positions or recommendations, please put some of these other things aside. Planning board is very important. We protect the town. If you want to protect the town, rural character, put the experienced planning board people back on the board, okay, and then we can keep doing our great work.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Next is a presentation of the 2013 budget. This is not an action item. It's not to be voted on. Last year, when Tom and I, prior to us being sworn in, the outgoing chair had done the same thing in terms of providing a proposed budget to, in the words of the prior finance chair, to either use or not use as you wish. And you know, we made the decision not to follow that because it had proposed a tax increase, and we were able, as you all know, this year to strike a balanced budget and close a $558,000 budget gap without a tax increase. And we were successful in doing that. And I, with this year's budget committee, and working with Elaine and Lorraine, and more accurately, Lorraine and Elaine working on it with me trying to stay out of their way, we're able to put together a 2013 budget, which again shows there no need for a tax increase this year, while there are certain increases in line items, like in capital. I think the 2012 budget was around $63,000 or $65,000. No, there was money in it in this year's. Yeah, and next year there's going to be about 100 in this one.
There was nothing in 2012. In 2013, proposed is 50.
Additional.
Yes, but there was 65,000 in this year's line item.
From 11.
From 11.
That's how 60, I think, was in 2011.
Yes,
In
that was carried.
2012, there was...
We didn't add to it.
Right,
Right.
there was no appropriation for 2012.
Right.
And this year, there's an increase from last. And there is a decrease of about $65,000 in costs. So it's not a decrease in services in terms of expenditures. It's because some of our insurance premiums have gone down, right? We've also increased the compensation to the emergency management coordinator. Yeah, you want to go through it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I do have copies of everything. Just a couple of highlights.
I'm not sure what it is. I don't know. No.
Is it okay to go?
Yeah.
One of the big bold changes that was made to the 2012 budget, the actual adopted budget, was that a bold 15% was cut from each departmental budget. Each departmental other expense are operational. That was continued for this year. If you can look through the worksheet, it goes department by department, and you can see that most...
I'm sorry, just to clarify, you didn't continue with an additional 15% cut.
Right,
We
just
maintained it
maintained.
because we were able to stay within that this year.
Right, right. Most of the departments were easily able to function for the entire year on that reduced budget, so there were no increases added back in. That same cut was maintained for 2013. Salaries for non-contractual employees were set to increase 0% in 2013. That has the employees contributing to help keep the tax rate steady so that the residents can help with their own economic stresses by not increasing the municipal budget. The amount in our 2012 annual budget was a little overestimated. It was about 15,000 higher than what it had to be. I myself had overestimated, thinking that the auditor would have a more substantial bill for the additional work that was performed, but it didn't work out that we needed it. So we had about 15,000 less. So our 2013 appropriation was cut by that amount since we didn't need that. Legal fees were reduced by 20,000 to account for a less litigious future. Planning and Zoning Board had a $10,000 decrease in salary, the combined boards. Well, not the combined boards, but each board. Insurances came down, not a huge amount, about $7,500, but they are reappropriated in the sub-account so that you can see a more accurate representation about what the insurance is actually for. Aid to the fire, volunteer fire company and emergency squad was kept level. There were no decreases in theirs. I did estimate the police salaries. I'm still waiting for the chief to submit the actual contractual figures. But their operational expenses were cut by $13,000 based on their 2012 actual money spent for their OE. The emergency management and 911 coordinator positions were combined. It saved $400, but every dollar counts. Public buildings and grounds was increased by $15,000. That was basically to account for the increasing demand for repairs on the building and other infrastructure in the municipal complex. Pension costs for both police officers and PERs covered positions decreased by $12,870, largely due to Governor Christie's huge sweeping pension reforms in 2010. Now, 2013, the bills are starting to reflect the changes that he made and the positive decrease for the taxpayers. The reserve for uncollected taxes was increased by $10,000. Most of that is due to what I'm hoping is my overestimate in decrease in our tax collections. I haven't quite gotten the figures down for the 2012 collection rate yet.
So what did you increase that by?
10,000.
10,000?
In this year, as the mayor mentioned, was a $50,000 appropriation for capital improvements. Of that 45,000 is earmarked for road improvements. That's a huge, huge step towards capital planning and instituting an actual road paving program. The overall appropriations part of the budget was decreased by a little over $63,000, and as the mayor suggested, we're providing the same, if not better, services for a reduced overall expense. The other side of the equation is the revenues. We are facing what I've been told is a potential $2 million decrease to the tax base. That $2 million of a potentially decreased overall assessment would equate to about $8,795 in actual taxes, just the local portion of the taxes. So even though the $2 million sounds like a huge amount, the actual impact on our tax collection possibilities is not that large of an impact, and it could be very well accepted by the $10,000 increase in the reserve for uncollected tax. We did have a one-time revenue last year of $93,000. That was due to escrow accounts that we took their revenue back into the current fund, for lack of a better definition there. The resolution that was passed tonight canceled $456,000 of old escrow balances that were for performance escrows that we strongly believe, 100% believe, that were paid erroneously out of the current fund previously. That money then, through an interfund, will go back into the current fund surplus, and instead of ending the year with $150,000 in surplus, we'll end with almost $600,000 in surplus, which enables us to anticipate a larger portion of that in our 2013 budget to offset any potential tax increase. The budget itself contains no real tax increase. The actual levy I have increasing $2.35, and that's really just because I rounded up. It was 77.35 cents, and I just...
We'll let you round.
Yeah, I asked for that leeway there, so it was very nice to allow. So the bottom line is improved services, more efficiencies being put into place, and no tax increase.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you, Elaine, for your hard work on this. And this is just, again, for informational purposes. Next year, Township Committee can do with it, what it wishes. Hopefully, they will follow it. I believe that it is a continued commitment. I am very passionate about fiscal responsibility. I have the utmost respect for the taxpayer, and I always believe in smaller government. And I believe, and this year when we passed our budget, there were a lot of folks, naysayers, who thought a cut of 15% wouldn't work. And we now know conclusively in December that the naysayers were incorrect, that the budget did work. And the one thing that I believe, just in general, philosophically, if you give government money, government will spend it. If you don't give government money, they won't have it and they won't spend it. And it really is as simple as that. The more that you provide, the more that will be spent. And there is always, you're always feeding the beast. And I'm not suggesting that there should never be increases. What I'm suggesting is that increases should always be viewed as a last resort and should only be done when absolutely necessary, and not as a matter of course, not to provide cushions, not to provide comfort, but to be done only when necessary, so that when you're looking at the people that you represent and you bump into them in ShopRite, or you bump into them at the dry cleaner, and they say, "Why did you raise my taxes?" you can look them in the eye and say, "Because I had absolutely no other choice." And I believe that this budget, for 2013, shows that if there is an increase in taxes, it will be one of choice, not of necessity. So, because there is, and this year, unlike last year, and I do understand, Lorraine had a little trepidation, in this year's budget in terms of whether or not there were going to be unforeseen or unanticipated situations, because really the prior budgets, I don't think, had the line items broken out the way you would have liked to have seen them. But I think this year's budget was hopefully a little bit easier for you, because you had done that this year, and you had at least, I'm sure you would prefer a 5 or 6 year historical basis, but at least you had, this past year of real numbers to give you a little bit more certainty with this. So that's all I have to say on it. So thank you.
So I would like to jump in here, because as you know, so I did want this as part of my agenda item. I too have the residents' best interest at heart, and what I would like to do is, anyone that's has a little bit of a financial background will understand what I'm saying, and I'm going to pass out a document that I put together that I think it's important for people to understand where we're at. So I'll pass this down here, and anyone in the audience that would like a copy, pass it out. Okay, so I'll wait till you guys get this. And
Yeah, that's fine.
the reason that I want to have this conversation tonight regarding the 2013 proposed budget that was put together by this year's Finance Committee, because I think it's very, very important that we understand and have a complete picture of what's actually going on. The fact that there was no tax increase last year, the fact that there's a proposal on the table for no tax increase the upcoming year, that's all well and good, but I think you really need to understand the numbers behind the conversation. So the document that I just handed out, I would just point to the back of the sheet that says the budget issues, 2012-2013 budget issues. Just want to talk about that a little bit, and then I'll get into the front page of the document. First of all, I would like to say that although we didn't have an increase in taxes for this year being 2012, there was a budget gap. And the budget gap was about 3 to 4 cents of per $100 assessed tax value. This year, for 2013, there's actually 11 cent gap. per $100 assessed value of tax value. Now, you might say, well, how can that be? Why would we have this gap? And Joe's saying we don't have a gap. Well, the reason we have a gap is, one is our surplus was reduced a great deal, down to 97,000. It's up higher now, and I'll get into a little bit of detail, but it was reduced by almost 350,000, which is a concern. The proposed one-time use of escrow, which Lorraine just talked about, of 442, I think we said 456,000. That one-time escrow, although it's going to be great to use it in 1 year and avoid any tax increase, what it does is it closes a hole for 2013, and you still have that hole going forward. So that gap of 400-some thousand this year is going to be a gap going forward. The $93,000 that was used from escrow to close the budget gap, part of the budget gap this year, it's still there as well. Okay? That should have been my opinion, and I think the CFO would agree with me, as well as any auditor, that if you're going to use escrow funds, you should not use those funds all in 1 year. It should be used over a several period of time. Because the bottom line is you're kicking the can down the road. So 3 to 4 cent gap for 2012, 11 cent gap for 2013. Well, guess what? What do you think you're going to have to use in 2014? Unless you have increased ratables, you have a huge gap in 2014. The tax valuations, I did change that number when Lorraine and I talked the other day. We thought the impact would be closer to 55,000, and what I found out today, it's really 8,800. Now, I'd like to turn your attention to the front of the page where we talked about, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with some of the restructuring of work that took place at the beginning of the year, but one of the claims by our mayor and deputy mayor was that we were going to be saving almost $42,000 per year as a result of the restructure of the CFO, treasurer, sewer, and et cetera. What you'll see is there basically has been little to no savings as a result of that restructure of work. What I have there is the former would be the cost in 2011. The current is what you'll find in the budget as far as what's been expended for 2012. And the future is what's being proposed in this budget that Joe just referenced going forward. So if you look at those numbers, I think you're going to find it hard to find where we've saved $42,000. So I just wanted to go on record to express my concerns. I'm planning to be on the finance committee for this next year, and we have a huge task ahead of us in dealing with the finance for this township. So I'm very, very disappointed that, that it was presented in this manner, that we have no increase this year, none next year, and we have no issues. Because I'm concerned that for next year's committee, it's going to be perceived that, look at, they're raising taxes again. It's a huge hole, and residents need to understand what they're leaving us with. It is huge.
Lorraine, did you provide these figures?
This isn't my spreadsheet.
Okay.
There was a spreadsheet.
That's all I need to know.
I had the other spreadsheet that Lorraine provided. And I took it right off the budget, Elaine.
Any other comment?
No.
Right off the budget.
Yep.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is an update on the RFP process. At the last meeting, Tanya had requested an RFP for certain professionals, and just wanted to let the residents know that we received solicited a proposal for bond counsel. We received a proposal from the law firm of McCarter and English. We did not receive any other response. For township planner, we received a response from Hayer, Gruel and Associates.
It's actually higher.
Higher.
For-
All right.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, your party gets her in the back.
Come on.
Clark, Kate, and Hintz, and no other township planner. For auditor, we received a response from Fariola, Whitecolts, Cerullo, and Huva, from Supple Clooney, and from Robert Morrison. Sewer engineer, we received a response from Crew Engineers and Joe Pryor. For Township Engineer, Mr. Finelli. For attorney, we received a response from Weber Dowd Law.
That municipal?
Yeah. Peter Jost and Mariziti, Falcon, and Hume. Labor attorney, we received a response from Roth Diaquini. Frank Tadeo. Abruzzese, McDermott, Mastro, and Murphy. Special Sewer Council, we received a response from Mariziti, Falcon, and Healy. Public Defender, we received a response of Gregory Gianfacaro. And Prosecutor, we received a response from Roger Scood. Special COA Council, we received a response from Stickle, Coney, and Sullivan. And on insurance, we received, and I'm assuming this is the folks from the JIF that review for us, Kim, we received from Fairway Insurance Associates. And those are all the responses that I believe that the township received pursuant to the RFP. Is there any others that are?
Not that right, unless,
Okay.
Kim, unless you've gotten something on the due date of December 14th.
No.
So that's the entirety of it. Okay. Sewer this says sewer subcommittee. I don't think it's really an update from the subcommittee, but many of you may have read in the paper that there's been a proposal and a discussion from the Phillipsburg sewer that they're looking at a 2-cent increase. And the long and short of it is there were several meetings that were held and Greenwich Township did not receive notice. And there were, we found out after the meetings had taken place. Subsequent to that, we had Brent, I think, did you notify them, or was it Kim? Someone from the township had reached out and notified them that we had not been receiving notice. They then sent out a notice with a typo, where again, we didn't receive notice. We found out about it anyway through our sewer engineer. And Elaine and I went to the meeting, and in preparation for the meeting, I was able to obtain and read in its entirety the 1988 intermunicipal sewer agreement. Only I would do this, right, Murray?
I think so.
And what's that?
1990.
No, the 1988. And then I also read the 1998, which affects Greenwich. I read both of them.
Oh, you read the other one.
I read the other one. I went back to the beginning. I read both of them.
Okay.
And I actually showed up at the meeting with both of them. And they were very surprised to see me. And I read into the record the agreement. And I know in Warren County, it comes as a surprise. But the agreement was not being followed. And we actually have a contract which says that the sewer committee is to be comprised of no more than 4 representatives of Phillipsburg. It is presently comprised of 6. It says there must be a representative of Pohat, of Lopat, and of Alpha. Presently, they have 0 representation. Everything has been done unilaterally by Phillipsburg, and this has been going on since 1988. There is a 1998 agreement which says Greenwich can come to the table. And if Greenwich comes to the table, we can have a seat on the committee if and only if Lopakon Township, Powhatan Township, and Alpha provide written consent, and Phillipsburg. They all have to provide written consent. Lopakon Township provided written consent for Greenwich Township to join in its 1998 interlocal sewer agreement, which I don't have a copy of and I did not read. But in that agreement, they provide written authorization for Greenwich Township to have a seat at the table. At the meeting last week, we had Mayor Kearns from Powhat introduced a letter providing written authorization for Greenwich to sit at the table, and Councilman Dunwell was at the meeting and provided authorization at the meeting. So, when Greenwich joins under the 1998 agreement, Phillipsburg gets 1 extra seat, so that it will be a 5-4 vote. And it's understandable. It is their plan. And, you know, I'm not suggesting anything is wrong there. So at the meeting, I did a count on the dais, and I said, well, if you still have 6, so if one of you gets up and leaves, and the township clerk moves and sits down here, and the 2 other seats, there'll be exactly 4 seats, and we can all have a seat at the table. And counsel for Phillipsburg said on the record, Mr. Trail, I don't disagree with anything that you said. I have the agreements in front of me. And Councilman Stetner said, where have you been since 1988? We've been waiting for Greenwich to come. And I said, well, you have our assurances we will never miss another meeting.
Did he really say that?
Yes, he did.
Oh,
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes,
He
he
didn't
did.
know we entered the agreement in
Yes,
1990.
yes, he did. So, for the first time, I'm proud to say that Greenwich Township now has a seat on the committee as authorized by law. And it's
Sit out there like this.
it's amazing when you actually read a contract and you go to a meeting and you raise your hand. The results that you can get. Now, at the end of the day, and there's something floating in this water. At the end of the day, they're still going to be able to do what they need to do, and will still not be able to ultimately effectuate things. But in the 1988 agreement, it might be the 98 agreement. Brent, you'll.
Greenwich is included in 98.
Yes,
It's
no,
not
but
included in the priors.
right. But what I mean is, there's a provision to go to arbitration with BPU.
Oh.
And I think this is a critical component that I don't care if I'm showing my hand, but if they don't play nice and they don't play fair, they can't get what they want, because if by a unanimous vote, if Alpha, Powhat, Lohat, and Greenwich band together and the 4 of us vote, we can prevent the increase from happening automatically, and pursuant to the agreement, it goes to BPU for arbitration. So we can at least remove it from the local influences and have an independent third party take a look at what the proposed increase is. Here's my concern. There was a proposal several weeks ago where Elaine and I went, and I have the PowerPoint if anybody wants it. Maybe I'll post it on the webpage. I just can't imagine anybody wanting to read it. But there was a study done by their engineer, and there's a PowerPoint where in their PowerPoint on page 5 on the bottom, it says that the purpose for the 2% increase is to expand capacity. They want to go from 3.5 million to 4.3 per day. So they want to increase 8 million gallons per day of flow. 800,000 per day is what they're looking to do. And in their proposal, they say that the reason for the increase is to increase capacity. Our sewer engineer, Joe Pryor, told them fair market value for that increased capacity represents $8 million on the market. That's what it's worth. Their proposed infrastructure to increase this flow was significantly less than $8 million, significantly less. The point was, and what we said is, if you want to increase the flow, let's do something that I know that governments hate to do. It's called capitalism. Give it to the private markets. Those people who want it, let them pay for it. The towns who want it and need it, let them pay for it. The ones who don't. Well, that's not good enough for them, and they're committed to this, and I don't know if it has to do with the Ingersoll Rand property being sold. I'm not going to get into these conspiracy things as to, why it's being done. All I know is that was 2 meetings ago. Fast forward a week, and the same engineer with the same clicker and the same PowerPoint stands up and says it's got nothing to do with increased capacity. It all has to do with necessary maintenance. And if we don't provide this infusion of money, everything's going to stop flowing. And he actually said this. And the children are going to take little toy boats, and they're going to be floating. They're going to be playing in pools of excrement. And he started to paint a picture like we're a banana. It was the most. He did. He did order the trans. He literally said that. It was.
Wow.
It was somebody.
Verdict.
No, but it wasn't.
He worked for the company. He worked
Yeah.
for the water.
Oh, you know the water?
Yeah, it was the most pathetic, unprofessional, over-the-top presentation. So then he starts talking about it's for maintenance. And I said, well, wait a minute. And I pulled out the PowerPoint because I brought it with me. I have a whole sewer folder now. I have everything there. So I pulled out. I pulled out the PowerPoint. I said, these are my words. I just want to read what you say. This is what you say. Da da da. Now it turned into a Bill Clinton. What is the definition of is? Now he says, well, the whole, how you define capacity. For me, that's maintenance. And he starts going through this whole machination about. And then Dunwell stood up and said, look, here's what I want to know. If you're telling me that you're going to invest in maintenance, and it's going to have an unintended consequence of increased capacity, then we can't go for the maintenance. You need to build a Chinese wall and bifurcate. What is maintenance that will not increase a gallon of flow? You got my vote. What's going to increase flow? You don't have my vote because we don't. Right now the capacity issue can be dealt with by selling it and a new allocation agreement of how we're going to divvy that up because every municipality is going to want its piece of that increase, and that's fine. But there's a different mechanism for doing that than passing the cost off on everybody, and that's where we are with it. So I just want to kind of report back to the committee, to the professionals, and to the residents that Greenwich Township is now has a seat at the table, as does LOHAT, as does Alpha, and as does LOPAT, and they're all engaged. So we're all going to be singing Kumbaya, and we're going to be one big happy family over in Phillipsburg.
When's the next meeting?
I think January.
Yeah, well, there was one this week. It was canceled. Yeah, so that's where we are with that. And I know that was a long update, and we're way over time, but I'll try and pick it up. JCP&L substation. You want to talk about that later on in your report, and I'll skip over that, or you want to do it now? Go ahead, go for it. Yeah,
Excuse me, Mayor, is Lorraine excused? Is she finished?
what was the conversation we had
I
before?
was waiting for a pause.
He didn't breathe.
If you're waiting for a pause from me, you're going to be here a long time. What did I tell you before?
You told me to get up and go.
I did say that, right? So get up and
You
go.
said get out of here.
Have a good night. Thank you, Aaron. Merry Christmas.
I'll send you a PowerPoint. All right, the JCP&L substation buffering, as you know, reported last month. Elaine and I met the JCP&L guys out at the site. This was right before the hurricane hit. And we almost predicted the fact that if the hurricane was going to hit the way they were talking, that there would be a delay in moving forward because JCP&L would be tied up with more important things, in all honesty. That happened. I reached out. I let them get their lives in order. I then reached out for them again a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, because they promised us a planting list and a plot plan. They have since sent both, which I've forwarded to all you folks, and it's pretty simple. At this point, and I suspect it would be our office doing it, we need to develop a landscape plan for the substation that then we have to send back to JCP&L for their approval. And then subsequent to their approval, then we'll have to deal with costs and who's going to do what, this, that, and the other thing. So, there's really nothing to do now. I think the next step, as I said, is for our office to put together a planting plan, landscape plan, whatever you want to call it, send it to JCPL for their approval.
Great.
Do you want to just carry this to next
Yes,
month?
I think so.
For authorization, not, we'll just sit tight?
Well,
Or-
you have authorization for what?
authorization for us to do the plan. It's not a big, I mean, really, I mean, we're talking a few $100. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not a big deal.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
they offered, they were in agreement that the cost would be shared.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's for the actual vegetation, for the actual,
Yeah.
like, purchase of
But
the
not for
materials. Not, they're not.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to authorize you to do that now.
I'll second.
Any comment? Roll call?
Chris?
Yeah.
Siegel?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Miliani?
Yes.
Real?
Yes.
How much money?
The-
How much money was this for? Approximately.
Full park.
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed $500. Okay, now, are any of you landscapers at heart that want some involvement in picking out the species?
Kim,
Because,
I'll help you with that.
all right, because there's that,
I'll help you with that.
yeah, so I don't want to be
Since-
responsible for picking out the species and all of a sudden say, who wanted a boxwood?
I'll help you.
Okay, I'll work with you, fine.
all
Now
I care about
it's
is
up
the
to
visibility
550
for
now.
people.
This is a little, okay.
Okay.
So there's nothing, thank you.
All right, thank you. Now this, what do we have to do with the tree disposal? Was that taken care of already?
It's already been advertised. and,
Okay.
They're moving forward. I think the dates were January 12th and January 19th. I don't know, is that right? And
Okay.
they advertised and it's going on the website, right?
They were taking care of everything.
Okay.
I'll follow
It's
up.
just the website thing.
I'll follow up with the website. January 12th and January 18th are the days for
I
disposal?
I believe that that's correct. I have their flyer
Okay.
at home.
The digital sign, previously, I had raised the issue, the desire to try and get a digital sign out on our property up by Lowe's to be able to provide some method of communication, whether it's for township issues, rec issues. I know Brad Perone was here one day. He also indicated that the school board would be, I don't know if he said it on the record, but he said it to me, that and I hope I'm not putting him on the spot, but he said that the school board would be interested in sharing the cost of that. So, I think this is one where we can probably, he did say, okay, like a 50-50 split. And I had asked Michael to go out and try and get some proposals so we can see what we're talking about in terms of cost. And the one